Okay, this is the continuation of the February 15th trade. And right here where we left off, it was about 6:52 and 6:52 a.m. So I'll just continue the chart here. It's supposed to continue here. Let me hit that button. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this was a downtrend in progress after it switched over, and I'm looking for a pullback back to the number 3 point right here. So let me speed that up a little bit. So we'll go to 15 speed here. And I'm just looking for the next number 3 point that's kind of obvious. And I'm doing it at 15 times speed here, but in reality you're looking for the same things, only in real time. But for the purposes of not falling asleep here, I'm just speeding it up a little bit. And so I paused it here because we're looking at kind of you can see it made a number 2 point right here, and but it's not really making a clear number 3 point, and it's not close to the ADMA line. So this is what I would consider to be a phantom number 3, and I kind of illustrated that by doing the ringing of columns of the highs and lows, and you could see what I'm talking about there with the phantom points. And basically, realistically, we're just looking at it's a constant downstream of the. There's no interruption in the high points as it goes down in this downtrend here. As you would have if a number 3 point formed, which is higher than the previous and higher than the next one, and that would be your number 3 point. But since we don't have that, it's considered a phantom because we have a legitimate number 2 point, yet no number 3 point. And sometimes, if it's really strongly trending, you can take those inside bars that happen with a phantom number 3 point. And by inside bar, I mean that this bar right here at 6:53 is inside the high of that bar and inside the low of that bar. And so I just call these inside bars here, and you could probably take the opening here if it was really trending steeply. What you're really trading is the phantom. You're watching for the number 2 point, and then you're trading the phantom number 3 point. And so I know that sounds kind of complicated, but I do trade those when it's really strongly trending. In this case, I'll just let that one pass here because as a new trader, you want to try to be safe and just trade by the book. Wait for it to come as close to that blue EMA line as possible, and you should have plenty of good opportunities from that. You don't need to be taking extra risk if you're a new trader, but I'll sometimes do it just because I know these have a tendency to I can get more trades out of the trend, and so these have a tendency to hit the target. So anyway, I'll continue here. Okay, that's looking like a number 3 point there. We'll continue it. I want to see it a little bit closer to that line. Oh, there we go. So that's over the line. So as always, the question becomes at this point: is it going to make a trend change, or are we going to continue down leg here. And so it all depends on if this were to continue upward and that 80 MA line were to continue bending upward. I suspect a trend change, even though I haven't had well, actually that is a 1, 2, 3. You could look at that as a 1, 2, 3 bottom here. But even if I didn't have this formation and it was bending upward, the rule is I would take the next trade after the crossover occurred, even though we haven't had a 1, 2, 3 formation yet, as long as it's close to that 80 MA line. In this case, it's you could technically consider that a breakout of the number 2 point, but I'm not seeing enough curvature. And for me to enter a downtrade, short trade, I would need to see it come through that 80 MA line, and for this line to be sloped downward at the time I was entering the market. So we'll see what it does here. Continue at normal speed. See how that tick is moving downward? You can already tell what it's trying to do. And if it starts to really have problems moving upward and it looks like it's moving downward, that's giving me a clue that it might be a valid trade to the downside here. But as always, you want to wait, have patience and wait for the next bar to tell you what it's doing, the next opening. In this case, the timer is counting up, so we got 7 seconds to the next bar opens. In reality, real time, you'd be looking at that timer, and it's a countdown timer. So that would be my entry here. The reason I did that is because this bar, this line, the 88 EMA line, looks like it's coming down a little bit. It looks like it's starting to bend downward. But that's assuming this is number 3 point. And so I'm seeing, even when it's parallel, it's not really bending inward, and I'm seeing it start to reverse after the number 3 point is made. That tells me I've pretty good odds of making a valid trade there. Oh, so we got it. Got that one. Alright, so let's see here. Yeah, it's looking pretty flat. So I'm wondering if a breakout of that support area. Anytime you can run a straight edge along a bunch of lows or highs in a group, or in this case close and opens, that's a support zone. And you could call this a ledge, you can call it a congestion area. And usually the breakouts of these are going to be fairly good trades. So I guess it's not just, you could look at it as a hook trade, but you can also look at it as breakout trading, and just keep that in mind as a combination of features you're looking for. So I'm afraid to speed it up because it's harder to tell when it's moving at 20 times speed what it's gonna. I might miss some of the minutiae here, and I'm seeing this could be a 1, 2, 3 formation, but I like to see them well formed, much better formed than that. You know, where the 1 point would be much lower for a 1, 2, 3 bottom. Number 2 would be up here, and then number 3 would be much better formed, and I would like to see real thrust upward, but in this case it's kind of meandering. So I guess that's one thing I also look for is the kind of mood the market is in, which is one of the subtleties that you can't really explain in writing. You just kind of have to see it. So what I'm doing here, often on these, they can fool you that it looks like it's going to trend change here because that's narrowing inward. But I'm also looking at the 5-minute chart, and that downtrend still looks pretty strong. Although I could see it coming up to that ADMA line on the 5-minute chart and bouncing off and bouncing downward. But I'm just very cautious at this point because it's still a very strong downtrend here. And so I don't automatically get suckered into okay, so that might be an uptrend on the 1-minute chart, and we've got a lot of room up top here, but I'm also seeing the Bollinger Band lines are narrowing inward. So I think it's always wise to give deference to the 5-minute chart. So I'm assuming that's, for example, the 5-minute chart. That's a 1-2-3 formation. I mean a hook formation right here. And so let's see what it does in this next bar here. Yeah. See, I've seen too many of those to where it cons you into going long or going the opposite direction and it reverses on you. So I kind of know it's a little bit of little tricks here. But I'm just going to exit out of that because I didn't feel good about if that was going to hit my target or not. It came close, but probably exited a little bit early. But if you have to exit like that, here's what I did. I saw that maybe it was stalling at my target, wasn't really taking out my target. So I just exited the market early, and I had a little bit of profit there. And that's always, you never go wrong by doing that. Once you have profit, just get out if you feel it's, see, I'm feeling it's hitting that support area here, and I know it has a tendency to bounce, and I'm seeing it narrow here, so I'm not real confident about the short trade hitting my target there. So I just got out of that trade. And anytime you feel uncertain like that, you can always hit the exit at the market when you have a little bit of profit, and there's nothing wrong with that because you can't go broke taking a profit. So let's see the continue here. You know what? I'll just speed it up. Let's go to 720 or 20 speed. Okay, because I sped it up, that looks like it. See at that crossover at 702, I could get in a trade there right at that crossover point. It doesn't always have to be at the open that's even with the last close. And that would have been a good trade, but yeah, I just missed it because I sped it up. But I don't know if I got that when I traded in reality or not. I think by this point I was done for the day. So I'm kind of winging it here. I think in reality I probably would have had a tendency to want to go long there. But yeah, it was closing down on the target zone. It's narrowing in the Bollinger Bands, as you can see, and as you can see the close outside the Bollinger Band there, that's usually a sure sign, especially when it's flat, that it's going to just reverse on you and come right back down through the ADMA line, and that's a sign you're entering a trading range again. So that's a that's a narrow trading range, and it's looking really flat right here. So let's see what it's going to do here. I'm just kind of blasting through this here because I just, when it starts looking pretty good, I'll slow it down again. But all this stuff right here, I don't want to trade because it's that 80 EMA line is lying flat with the 14 moving average, and as you can see, this trading ranges don't get flatter than that. The Bollinger Band. And as you know, the best trades occur when it's sloping, when it's in a trend. And so, why not just wait for the trends? You don't have to trade every area in the trading range here. So it's starting to. So we're getting a little bit of a bubble there, starting to come out. Okay, so I'm seeing the seeing how that's separating there, and so I'm wondering if it's going to break out of a trading range. It's starting the you can see the what I call the alligator's mouth opening. I don't know if it's like this one here, so I'll just have to see more development, but I'll just go ahead and slow it down. This is why watching trading videos isn't that exciting, because in real time it's kind of boring. But look at the yeah we are getting a move up here, but we're already at $610 profit. Only this is okay. This is something I shouldn't do probably. That opening is right up at that Bollinger Band, but usually in the first breakout moves, as I'm watching the breakout of this range here, and that tells me it has a good thrust. So that's one time I'm breaking the rule a little bit. And there are times when you kind of this is what's so hard to put down in writing. There are times when you break the rules a little bit based on what you're seeing. I'm seeing a breakout of resistance here, and so I'm banking on that thrust outward will hit my target. So that's why I entered there, even though it's at the upper Bollinger Band. When I said, normally I'm trying to enter down near the 80 EMA line, but let's see if that was a correct decision here. Got my mouse over the exit. Well, I got out of that one because, but you see, I got out of the profit, so that's okay. So let's. I would have hit the target there. That's the thing. I got out too early. I was being a little bit paranoid. You never know when it's going to hit support or resistance, if it's going to bounce off or break through. And just because this was a long trading range and it had some age to it, or maturity, I expected the breakout would probably be legitimate. So it broke out of resistance here, and as you can see, that's a solid breakout. Sometimes you'll get a bounce when it's a young range, and you'll get a bounce. It'll bounce back in, but this looks like it's breaking right on through, so I assume we're in a good trend here. So the next point I'm looking for will be the P3 point, the number 3 point of a trend, of a hook. And so I'll just fast forward until I see that. kind of the same process. That's why trading gets redundant after a while, because it's really the same techniques over and over again, and which makes it learnable too. Okay, and you know what I'm looking for, the typical things. At this point, it could be a trend change, or it could be a continuation, but in order to see it continue, I'm going to have to see it, in other words, continue with the uptrend. Do you see how that breakout below that low here? Now, if that had occurred up here, near the upper Bollinger Band, if that would be what I would consider a long, large pullback. I don't want to use the term long, but that would be a large pullback if it occurred, if it broke through the support of the previous bar, and that bar was up near the upper Bollinger Band, and it pulled back. That would be a good sign of a trend reversal. But because this is so low, so close to the Bollinger Band, I'm assuming this might just be a retracement before it resumes the uptrend. That's kind of how I'm looking at this. And if you look at the previous uptrend, this pullback is about maybe 20 to 30%. So that's just a normal retracement swing. Now, if it were to pull back 50%, that would tell me that it's ready to make a number 3 top and then pull back. So right here, I'm suspecting a number 3 point to the upside, even though this 80 EMA line is bending inward. This will come through it, and if it starts coming backward and back through it, and this 80 EMA bends upward again, then I'm looking at resumption of the uptrend, and I want to be long at that point. So let's continue and see what that does. Matter of fact, I just missed it right there. Okay. Oh boy. Yeah, another period when I'm speeding it up, so I missed the trade there. But as you can see, that's the same bar that the number 3 point was made, that you made an entry point. Those are hard to catch, but that would have been a legitimate trade right there. But we had all that other information going into it, so I was ready for it. If I didn't speed this thing up, I probably would have caught that in real time. And so I'll just slow it down again and see if I can. So we're getting the same thing here. On something like this, I can use the timer to get me in at the next open that's even with this close here, because I'm expecting the same thing that happened before is likely to happen again here. So we're watching the timer here, 38, 40. This timer is counting up. In reality, you'd look at a countdown timer up here, but because we're using a recording, it's counting up. So I'm watching this timer to get me in at the next open if it's close. Now it's moving up, so I don't know if I want to be in there. Let's see if that works out. See how I got in right at the close and at the open. It's possible on some of these you'll get a little bit of a fallback to the line, but I know if it does, it's only going to go back about 2 points. So I was pretty safe entering at that open there, watching the timer. That's how I timed that entry. I have a feeling that's going to hit that target, so I'm just going to hold on to that. Have a little more patience this time, rather than just hit that exit. I get a little bit quick to hit that exit when it gets to be lower volatility. As the day goes on, the volatility decreases, so I have more of a tendency to be quick on that exit button at the first profit. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to pause it, just to analyze it a little bit. So, in this situation, I don't know. I'm going to be real cautious on continuing that trend because it's I don't like the low volatility, and so I think I'm going to really watch out for trend changes here and maybe some trading ranges. And normally, if it gets to this low volatility right here, I'll reduce my my target if I'm going to continue trading, like to 2 points. Right now, I'm still using a 5-point target, but let's just see how long I can continue using that same target there. So I'll speed it up. Okay. What I'm seeing here is a crossover to the. It's where the both trends are in agreement. Even though this is kind of angling inward on the minor swings or the 1 minute chart, the 80 EMA line is kind of angling inward towards the 14 SMA. And on the 5 minute chart, as you'll see, it's in agreement with the 1 minute chart, because it's on the 5 minute chart, it's just crossing over to the upside. So that tells me that this trend is going to be continuing upward. At the same time, I'm not liking how close this Bollinger Band is to this entry point for a 5-point target. So I'm a little hesitant to go along at these points right here using a 5-point target. You know, if I was using a 2-point target, I might be able to do that. And the way I can change that target is I'd have to go down to extended options, and you can see down here where I set my buy and sell brackets, the target would be the limit order. And so if I wanted to change that to 2 points, I could just go down, switch it here, and I would change the buy limit here. So I'm still using a sell stop and a buy stop of 5 points, and that's where I would. Takes a little bit of time to do while you're trading, and if I didn't want to do it here, I could preset it over here in the 5 minute chart. Sometimes I'll do that, and I'll open up trade mode in the 5 minute side, and so I'll have another setting there. But it's usually no problem. If I see the volatility is really decreasing, I can come over here and switch the change out the targets. It just takes a little bit of time, but I'm changing out the limit orders, or I can just adjust them manually, doing what I've been doing, just exiting based on visual cues. Okay, so I'll just switch it back to 5-point targets. I just wanted to. I know you've already seen this area, but I just wanted to demonstrate it. So I'll just set that back to 5-point. Okay, I'll just continue the trade here, see if there's anything I like. Well, I'm seeing this narrow into this congestion zone, and that's anytime I see that, I suspect, because what this means when these Bollinger Bands narrow is decreasing volatility, and so that tells me that's usually a sign that or a warning that a congestion area could follow, and you want to. It's possible to trade in these, but you got to really use a small target, and when it starts moving sideways like this, it's always a judgment call, and whether I want to be a breakout trader or try trading within that, it's still slightly sloping upward, so that tells me, these things tell me this trend is intact. But do I really want to try to trade a trend that is this shallow? I like the trends to be steep like that, but if it's starting to shallow out and you're seeing how flat these Bollinger Band lines, is that a trend or a trading range? And that's where you kind of hit it's hard to tell the difference between the two. And so if there's any doubt, I usually just side on the side of caution, and just, if there's any doubt that it doesn't look familiar, or if it's not making familiar hook formations, or if it's not trending, there's just no reason to trade that, because we're already up $760. So why do you need to take any more risk in here? I'm just going to wait till it starts looking good again, and if it starts looking like something I could trade, I'll go ahead and jump in there. I do see it's in a shallow uptrend, so if I get a break out of that trend, I'll go ahead and trade that. See, what I just saw right here is another number 3 point, but look at that, it's so shallow. And sometimes it's like a coil effect. You'll get it going from a large movement, and it sort of coils down to a point. And sometimes they call these wedges, or they call them pennants, or triangle formations. And they'll narrow down to a point, and sometimes you get the break out of this point. It will be really powerful, and usually the tighter the coil, the better the breakout is going to be. So I'll prepare for that here. And so let's see. I'll just bring it down and see if it does break out. It could. Sometimes these can continue forever, so you never really know. And we'll see if we get a break to the top here. Otherwise, it's extremely boring right now. That looks like a breakout right there. See how that just abrupt movement? So I already anticipated what it was trying to do, and that's where you want to catch them just as they're starting to move, because you're playing on momentum here. Just when they con you to thinking that it's not doing anything, it starts to move. And you got to kind of understand the little tricks, the little games it plays. I look at it as sort of a thinking entity. Oh boy, I thought I was going to get it reversing on me there. But you know, these Bollinger Bands are expanding out. That line is increasing. Those are all good signs that it's. Matter of fact, it's hit my target there. Okay. So we're right up against the upper Bollinger Band on the 5-minute chart, and that's relatively flat here. So yeah, I'm expecting a reversal. You can see how the 5-minute chart helps you out because you're seeing a bigger picture, whereas the 1-minute chart, it looks like you're breaking above that Bollinger Band. You're entering a long trend, but it tells a different story in the 5-minute chart. If you're looking at trading against a resistance area or ceiling here. That's what I'm seeing here. It looks like it's coming into a flat area, and usually what happens with those is they're going to bounce back towards the center of the Bollinger Band channel. So we'll see here. Just I know the stopping and starting is, you can't do this in real time, but I also in real time you'd have a little bit longer to analyze things, you know, as it's moving a little bit slower. All right. It's hard to know when to speed that up. See, what's happening here is it's kind of hugging that upper Bollinger Band. I know if I get a break below here, I'm looking at a possible reversal. See how long that pullback is, and that's one of the signs that I was trying to talk about in writing, that potential reversal here. Strong breakthrough of support of that previous price bar, and I'm not going to assume anything yet, but yeah, wow, okay. I'm not going to jump on it right here. You know, even though it's tempting, you want to take that momentum, but I just want to wait till the next price bar tells me what it's going to do. See if that's going to continue here. Okay, wait for it to come back through. Let's see if it bounces off that. I've got my mouse on the sell button in case it comes back through that closing price there. Yeah, let's see how that works out. Am I wrong? I don't know. Let's take the tendency is you want to move that stop loss. See how it faked you out? It makes you freak out a little bit if you're not patient. It looked like it was coming back against me there, but then it does what I thought it was going to do. So it's taking out my target. Okay, got it. It's, I actually surprised myself on that one. See how that it looks like, if you're looking back on that looks really unpredictable. But you had all these clues going into it, and how do you explain this in a set of rules? This is what's really difficult, is because I'm looking at a combination of all these things, and how do you describe it in a rule book? So that's part of my dilemma here, in trying to create a set manual on what I'm looking for, and those are just some of the signs, which you can tell by understanding the language of the markets that you get used to seeing. So I knew when the price bars are hugging the one Bollinger Band one side or the other, a breakout of the resistance or support, in this case it would be support. If it were hugging the lower Bollinger Band and broke to the upside, it would be a breakout of resistance of the previous price bar. And you get a long pullback to the 80 MA line. That's a good sign of reversal right there. And so when I see this 80 MA line coming down, and this bar just burst right through the 14 simple moving average, I know it's a good bet that downtrend is going to continue, but I want to wait first for it to do what it's going to do around, in an up move here, and then wait for it to come back through the close of the previous price. And that's true for so many trades, and you wouldn't think it would be a common feature of so many different types of markets, but it seems to be kind of a universal thing that it always does. And so I get used to that characteristic, no matter what type of market you're trading. It seems to do that same pattern. So that's what I was looking at there, but it's hard to describe in writing. So I'm not sure how long to continue with this here, because we're only at 7:46 in the morning, and you can see we're already up. Well, we've already made just doing this, and so let's just do maybe a couple more of these examples here. Okay. So one of the things I would ask right now is this, sometimes you'll get I mentioned that these act as a sine wave cycle. So it's moving in a sine wave pattern up and down like that. Sometimes the cycle will complete, but it won't move through the 14 simple moving average. And sometimes it's just at the beginning of that cycle. So my question now is, how far is this going to come up to let's say a number 3 pattern of a 1, 2, 3, larger 1, 2, 3 pattern here, and then is it going to come back down through there, or is it going to come back up to the upper Bollinger Band here? In either case, I know that I don't want to be long here, because I've got to look at the way that EMA is sloping downward, and so everything about this is telling me, well, it could have crossed over here and it's going to move back upward in the cycle, but I've got to wait for that upward movement to start occurring again before I think about going long. Because right now everything is saying, even though this bar is moving up, we've got all this downward movement here, and we've got this big thrust down through here. So the typical pattern when you get something like that would be for a 1, 2, and 3 point for a 1, 2, 3 top type formation. Only this would be occurring in a range. So I'm looking for a down move here as this tries to cross over again. And again, I'll just be patient and see what unfolds there. But I first know it's going to move up a little bit first. And a lot of trading, is requires patience like this, but it's also, it's better than working in a chocolate factory or something like that. I was thinking of Lucy in the Chocolate Factory. There are worse jobs you could do here. That really looks good. I mean, that looks good to go short right there. I want to see a little. I want to see a little bit more. I actually want to see this crossover completely, and it's good to just hold out like that. Wait for it to be perfect, even though that does look perfect there for a short trade. I've got my mouse on the sell button, and see how that. I could miss this trade if I just let it go like that. But, I want to see that thing cross over pretty good. As we're looking at trading right into that Bollinger Band, the lower one. So I'm also going to be ready to get out if I have to. Oh boy, what a bad feel. That was a bad entry right there. Got me a point below where I wanted to be. So now my target's right at the Bollinger Band limit. So see how it's expanding here, the gator mouth. See, those are all good signs that that trend is going to at least continue to a number 3 leg. So I want to be ready on that exit. So I tried to get in right at the open here, but obviously the timing was a little bit bad. In any case, that was probably pretty good timing because it was below the breakout of the support here. So yeah, let's just let it develop. Might come back against me a little bit. This could be one trade that I lose here. I'm not gonna move my stop loss order. This is where you have to have. You can't let your nerves get to you. You just gotta let it do its thing. This is what I hate, when you're not right on the timing as it starts to move. You have to wait through that, wait for it to mess around a little bit here. But see, I think the rationale is pretty good. And look what it's doing on the 5-minute chart. It's coming back into that ADME line there. So okay, this is where you hit a judgment call. Look at that, it comes right down, hit the target, and this is what it does in reality too. It'll hit that target exactly where you have your target, and you're going to be kicking yourself, oh, I didn't get out there. Yeah, so that's why, it's good to have hit the exit button, even if you're a little bit giving up some profit there. It's uncanny how many times it comes right to your target and doesn't get you out. Because that's a limit order, so it has to actually hit that limit order twice and then come back through it, and it'll take out the limit order. Oh boy, so I screwed up getting out of that. I'm just going to let it evolve here. Even if in reality, I would probably be out of this thing, in a real trade. I wouldn't let it mess around on me like that if it came that cool. Okay. All right, got me out. All right. So I think this is probably running too long at this point, so I'll just wrap it up. And I I know I've got allergies. My nose has been kind of plugged up. But anyway, I hope this gives a good feel for what I'm trying to do here. Have a good one. Let's turn this thing off here.